Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining my talk and this Ignite session that we're going to have. This is my first Ignite about technical documentation, and I'm going to talk about uh, how to write them better and why should I care. And when I say I of course also mean you. So first of all, hi, my name is Hila Fish. I'm a senior DevOps engineer and I work for Wix. I have 15 years of experience in the tech industry. I can say a lot of things about myself, but I only have 15 minutes to cover this massive topic, so let's get right to it. So I think that everyone can and should write technical documents because in the middle of the night, when I only have like an incident that I don't know anything about because it is something that my team member implemented or something like that, the only thing that I care about is that I have a runbook that helps me fix the issue or at least tell me what to check. And if I have it, that's great. I don't care about anything else. I don't read this document and say, oh, this English is so bad. Who wrote it? I don't care. The only thing that I care is that, awesome, I have a runbook that helps me fix the issue. And this is only one example, and I will cover more examples of why it's important to write technical documentation, but it's basically about sharing knowledge. So that's why I really think that everyone can and should write technical documentation to share the knowledge with everyone. I also like to say that if you can't automate it, then document it. And a lot of things that you can do in your day-to-day can be documented. So the straightforward thing is to write about system logical design or brief. This is the straightforward one. But there are other things like on-call runbooks, as I just mentioned, code readmes to incorporate and explain any intentions, reasoning, spaghetti code, any functions that are not clear, onboarding docs, why assign a body to a new member in the team if they can have onboarding doc and then just onboard themselves. Project planning doc, sometimes we have massive projects that we need to document in order to understand what's the status and what are the bottlenecks and stuff like that. And even Slack pin messages. If you have a knowledge, you can share it about anything. And if it fits a Slack pin message that people will daily use, then do it. And I'm not saying that you have to like utilize and engage in all of these examples here, but at least if you do a few, then it will be much more helpful and useful for anyone around you. Okay, question for you people. Have you ever heard this sentence or said this sentence before? Raise your hand. Come on, come on. Don't lie, come on. Okay, so a lot of people in my career, in other people's career that I talked about with, they said that they heard this sentence or heard the sentence before that my code is self-document because the code tells a story, or just read the code and understand what it is about. No, it's not the case. It never is the case. You know that. So we always need to understand what the code is about, explain spaghetti code, explain reasonings, intentions, and all the things that I'm going to cover in the next slide, and basically help us do our job much more easier. So let's understand, why should we write technical documents? First of all, to reduce your work volume. And you can say, wait, reduce, if I sit down and write documents, it wastes time and not reduce my work volume. So let me explain what I mean. In my previous company, since I'm a DevOps engineer, I got approached by QA people, developers, saying like, hey, why is my pod red in Kubernetes and how do I troubleshoot it? What is this error when I deploy the CI/CD pipeline? All these kind of things. And then people approach me like, I don't think, 7 or 8 times a day easily. And the questions were, some of them were very repetitive. So I gathered all the repetitive questions. I created a document, called it Tips and Tricks by DevOps. I gave them the document. And then after that, magically, from 7 or 8 times a day, they got decreased to 1 or 2 times a day. So that was great and helped me reduce my work volume because I need to support less incidents after that. It also helps with self-service enablement. Example of this doc, once I deploy this doc to their custody, let's call it like that, then they helped themselves with troubleshooting. They could do things on their own. So it helped with their self-service and increased their dev velocity. Another example for that is onboarding docs that I mentioned before. People can onboard themselves. Migrated in my previous company, I migrated GitLab from cloud to self-hosted. So I created a doc for how to adopt the tool faster because they don't know the tool before. So this also helped them for self-service and to increase their velocity. So a lot of things can be considered things that could help with these two. Eliminate production incidents quicker. As I mentioned before, if we have runbooks, we can eliminate incidents and back to sleep much more quickly, and also decrease mean time to resolution. Avoid single point of failure or a bottleneck, which is you, because I will ask you this rhetorical question. Do you want to go on vacation and still be available for work calls, or do you want to go to have a clear mind? So that's that. And also, I would say it here, job security is dead, okay? Don't bottle up the knowledge, share the knowledge. Some people say, hey, AI will take our jobs anyway. Let's prevent it from doing it by sharing the knowledge between us human beings. It will help make things clear for you or the future you, because once you structure things and write them down in a clear manner, it will organize it in your mind as well. And also anything about intentions, reasoning, anything that is not straightforward, as I mentioned before, the code is not self-documented, please document it because it will help you, your future you, and your team members all around you. Visibility, it will attract focus to the things that you do at work, which in turn will help progress your career. And also it will help you communicate things to your managers, the extent of your work, and to convey that you are an actual team player, not just something that you write in your CV. And last but not least, it will help you understand why we're doing things in a certain way. So if we cover things like, why did I set certificates here? Or how do I renew certificates? Or why did the module is complex? And why did I write the code in a certain way that doesn't follow clean code practices like dry and kiss? All of these kind of things will help us basically defend the decisions that we are taking and communicate them to others. It will also develop your business mindset and will make you a better engineer, because always asking why will strive for the best solution implementation possible. I hope that I convinced you until now that writing technical documents is good. Now let's see how to write them in a simple manner without being a technical writer. First of all, you need to know your audience. We have two types of audiences. Internal use is system design, and external use API documentation, stuff like that. If we know our audience, and based on our audience, we will know what needs to be covered and to which extent. So for internal use, we should write about things that you worked on while working on them. Things that bugged you. In the GitLab migration that I mentioned, I covered in the document a section of how to open support tickets without having a ping pong with us and support, because I had several tickets that I opened. After 3 days, give us logs. Okay, and it's always the same logs that they ask. They have the CLI that generates logs. Great. So I documented it, and next time, whenever someone opens a ticket, they will automatically attach the logs, and then we saved 3 days of ping pong. So anything that bugged you that could help others, preventing them to see that as well, we should cover it as well. Things that aren't clear or straightforward, I said it before, I will say it again. Anything that is not straightforward, the GitLab migration that I did, another example about that, I used a DB version that is different from the default. Why did I do that? I had a very good reason to do that. If I don't cover it in the documentation, people will think, it's a mistake, she didn't notice, whatever, and they will override it, and it wasn't good because it was for future versions support. So anything of this sort should be documented as well. For external use, you should cover what is the thing that you are writing about, possible use cases and quick start, any quirks, issues, things to consider when using this X, examples, both simple and complex, that will help the user adopt whatever you're talking about, because we want to make sure the user will use the thing that we are actually talking about. Second phase, decide or abide upon the documentation type. Some people use docs in knowledge bases like Confluence, and some already moved to doxescode, which I will cover in this presentation. If you can decide to move to doxescode after seeing this presentation, you will see that it is good. That's great. If not, and you need to stay with knowledge base, that's okay too, but you will see that you have still things to make it better as it is. Let's cover some general content guidelines for any docs, if they are knowledge base or in code. So first of all, your doc should have table of contents. It is essential for content discovery. And why is that? Because of the user flow. I found an article from 1997 saying that people don't read, they scan. And it's still the case until this very day. People don't read. This is the user flow, okay? They search for something, so that's why you should have meaningful titles and subheadings. And then once they found something that looks good to them, they scan the document. If they found what they are looking for, they will go to the result. If not, they will navigate elsewhere. So that's why you should have links to any other documents that could be helpful for the user, and then navigate them to this area. And then to help them skim the document and the search results much more quickly. Highlights. Put anything that is important in bold, and in terms of colors, it could be sometimes controversial, but I found that using colors is very good. Even if some people are colorblind or accessibility issues, others can still use it. And I found that developers say, ah, yeah, now that it's in red, I know not to touch it, for example. So sometimes using colors is the way to go. Use short words and more sentences rather than longer words and fewer sentences, because it will help users skim the document much more quickly, backed up by, I don't know if by studies, but it is backed up. And please, please, please write simple English that non-English native speakers could easily understand. Don't try to be Shakespeare, okay? Simple English, this is the way to go. It will be much more helpful, and not, oh, what is this word? Let me look it up once you have an incident and you need to deal with the incident and not just check the word in the vocabulary. So use simple English. Doxescode. So why doxescode is so great? It is using a markdown, which means that you still can utilize table of contents and highlights and even colors. It is plain text, so it is human readable. It is easy to write and diff, and it is platform agnostic. So it doesn't matter which platform you're using, you can incorporate a doxescode inside. It also means that the documents folder is in the same code repo, which means that the docs are integrated in the dev toolchain, and there's no need for the developers to leave the IDE, and which it's awesome because developers like their IDE, they like to write code. You know what I'm saying? So if we can allow them to do that, let's do that. Utilizing doxescode also allows us to have PR review for documents. So we can check, hey, the document didn't get updated once the function get updated, or anything of this sort, or even there's no document attached. So for any test that you can think of, you can have a PR check, and then if the test didn't pass, the PR will fail to merge, and then the developer will have to add document, will have to update the document, which is awesome for the day-to-day maintenance. Also CI/CD. You can have CI/CD integration for checking validations, and there are no broken links and linters and stuff like that. There are two tools that I know about that help with this and other features, Docosiris and Swim. I haven't used them myself, but I'm sure that if you will check them out, maybe they will fit your use case. And of course, I assume there are other tools that you can check out as well. But the idea here is to utilize tools that will help you maintain docs in day-to-day, as opposed to having them stale and not up-to-date. Last phase, remember your audience, okay? We talked about knowing your audience, now we need to remember them. So based on who you are talking to, you need to have the user flow in mind in and between sections, and to write the document order from the most used to rarely used. For example, if I write a document for my team members of how to maintain GitLab, then I need to first talk about how to upgrade, because they will do it frequently, then certificates, because they will do it only once in 2 years, and then integrations that they will do only once they deploy GitLab from scratch. So have the user flow in mind, and then based on that, write the document. Concept versus tasks, this is also super important. You need to think and convey the audience that you show them that you know what they're thinking about. So if they want to do something, if they want to know something, concepts, then you need to have the document cover information, background, explanations, reasoning, intention, stuff like that. But if they want to do something, tasks, then you should cover a how-to in this document. And please don't confuse the two, because at a certain point, a user always wants to do something. They want to do something or they want to know something. It doesn't happen at the same time. So if it's a how-to, great, put a link to the info. A document. If it's a concept, great, now link to how to do it. with these links, then you can help the user find whatever they are looking for, but always a document should be one thing at a time. Think about it like a microservice, does only one thing, and then it communicates with other documents, other microservices. So don't confuse the two. Last phase is to share the document with others, because sometimes you write things and it looks straightforward to you, but it's not really straightforward for them. What is this initials? What is the flow? I don't know this flow, stuff like that. And remember, this document is for your audience. So you need to share it with your audience, get feedbacks, do some iterations, and make the document as useful as possible for your audience. And last but not least, I told you that this document, this presentation is about writing technical documentation without being a technical writer. But if you still want to have some writing tips of how to structure documents, how to write in a way that will help the users understand better and stuff like that, I gathered some tips from myself and from technical writer Joshua Schulgasser, who's a colleague of mine in Wix. So I'm gonna populate it on the go, but these are great tips that we covered here. So basically, that's it. And probably you would say, hey, this presentation is very short and you talked very, very quickly. I don't understand what you're talking about because it's very, very quickly. At least take this golden rule in mind, which is provide readers with the information they need and send them back to their task as soon as possible, and make sure that documentation should always be clear, simple, and to the point. And if you say, the clicker is very quick. If you say that I don't have the time to integrate any new tools and I want to have like an immediate impact right now, how can we do it? How can we have a methodology? It's a very hard word. Methodology to updating tasks. Updating documents on a day-to-day basis. Then what should you do? Have the documentation an integral part of a task, aka the developer, the QA, the UI UX, whoever can't close the ticket unless the documentation was added to the feature or whatever they are working for. And that way you make sure the documents are up to date in a day-to-day manner. So I really hope that after seeing this presentation, you will go back to your day-to-day job, update some documents, and then you will say that your code is now well documented. Thank you.